Hey guys, welcome to my Stephen King book collection video. Now, I may not have the largest King collection on YouTube, but it sure is mighty. As well, I have some cool additions that I would love to share with you guys. Now, I will be starting off this book collection with my hardcover copies as well as my first editions, as I feel like that is what you guys would like to see the most. Now, the first book I will be sharing in my collection is Misery. This book was published in 1987, and what's really cool about this book specifically is I do have a first edition that was printed by Viking Press. Little story behind this story is it is my first Stephen King novel I have ever read, as well as owned. And I picked this up at a thrift store around 6 years ago, if I am not mistaken. So I took the dust jacket off the book. I'm just going to show you a little close-up. Very old school cover. It is a wicked cover. I just absolutely love it. And the actual book without the dust jacket, it has a cool kind of color here. It's like a grayish with the black spine. We got the cool blood color red right here. It almost like shines. It does shine kinda actually, which is really cool. Wicked. Now the second book in my collection is The Dark Half, which was published in 1989. And this is also a first edition Stephen King book that I own. It was published by Viking Press, as you could see, at least the copy that I have. Pretty cool cover. I'm just gonna quickly show you the book without the dust jacket on. As you could see, Stephen King portrait on the back, iconic. That gold font really does it for the simple black cover. It really makes it give it a magical kind of look. And the coolest part about this simple cover is how you open it up and we got the purple undertone on both sides of the covers as well, inside the covers. Next up is The Eyes of the Dragon, which I own a first edition of, published by Viking Press. And this book is absolutely beautiful. Not only the story, but the dust jacket itself. The red font with the green background, and then we have that old school image of the dragon right here. But the coolest part about this copy I have is this first edition copy has the special textured dust jacket. As you could sort of see, it has kind of scales that are textured, and it's supposed to represent the feeling or the skin of a dragon. So this book means a lot to me. The fact that I own this copy blows my mind away. Now this next book up on my list may not be a true first edition, but it is one of the coolest books in my collection, and there we have it with Firestarter. This book was published in 1980, and this is such a awesome copy that I own. This dust jacket is so hard to come across, at least for a decent price. Now this book is absolutely beautiful. Without the dust jacket, we got the black and the orange spine with the darker gold font for the Stephen King and for Firestarter. The publisher and the author here is in black font, and it makes it just really pop in your face. Now we got Cujo, which was published in 1981. This book is absolutely awesome. We got Rabid Dog, we got Castle Rock, Maine, so you know the story is going to be classic. This book is fantastic. And if you haven't read Cujo, I am more than sure you have heard of it or have heard of the reference. This story is frightening. This story is gripping, and this story is a page turner. The story is also underrated in my opinion. Now, talking about the actual copy of the book I own, the Dust Jacket is absolutely, this is probably one of my favorite dust jackets and covers in my whole collection. It is the same cover that would be on the first edition. Not only is it just so simple yet so classic, but that spine with that original 80s Stephen King font is just absolutely beautiful. The Cujo in the red really stands up. We got young Stephen King on the back. This is just absolutely a book that everyone should read. So a little close-up of the book. Beneath the dust jacket, we got a brownish kind of color with a black binding spine. Honestly, so cool. It looks like we got that same brown color for the author's name, but Cujo is outlined in silver, as you could see, and it really makes that Cujo stick out. In general, this book is absolutely great, and once again, you should definitely check it out. Next up, we got Dolores Claiborne. Now, this is a first edition that I own, and it looks absolutely mint. I'm not gonna lie, this is the cleanest first edition that I own in my collection. It literally looks like it was printed yesterday. Look at that. Now, I can't talk too much about this book as this is a book that I have yet to read, but I'm planning to read this within the next month or two. So I'm hoping I could talk about this, maybe do a book review about this if you would like to. Like to see it. Now, as I was saying, this is hands down the cleanest hardcover and first edition book in my collection. It looks in great condition. We got that same kind of color that Misery had, with the kind of shining red glow on it as well. We got the gold. Honestly, overall, another great book. I've heard a lot of good things about this, and I'm excited to read it. So I just finished showing you all of my hardcover books as well as first editions that I have. So now let's show you my paperbacks. Let's start with Salem's Lot, which is Stephen King's second book, written in 1975. And oh my goodness, guys, this is the best vampire story ever written, in my opinion at least. So I just showed you Salem's Lot, and that was in my top 3 favorite Stephen King books of all time. So I just gotta keep telling myself this is a book collection, not a book review. But next up, we have my favorite Stephen King book of all time, the Magnus Opum. We got The Stand. This book is absolutely beautiful, yet horrifying. We got a good versus evil story. We got a post-apocalyptic story. We got a love story. We got an action story, an adventure story, a horror story. You could say fantasy even. This book is everything. This book is Stephen King's largest book, and he did not disappoint. Literally, this whole book was a page turner. So I hope that tells you a lot about The Stand. We're talking about my favorite author and my favorite book from my favorite author coming in at more than 1,000 pages. There we have The Stand. This edition, as you can see, is a TV show cover edition. And if you know me, I am not a huge fan of movie cover or TV show cover editions on books. But that being said, the CBS TV show on The Stand was awesome, and I recommend checking that out after you've read this book if you are down for a 1,000-page turner. Next up, we have The Shining, and this is hands down one of his most popular famous books ever written. I feel like this is the book that sold most copies out of all of his books. The movie, absolutely great. The book, absolutely chilling. The story itself is absolutely chilling. Very isolated. I'm gonna pick up the pace just a little bit. If you want to hear me talk in depth on any of the books shown in this video, please leave a comment below, as I would love to do a book discussion or book review. But up next, we got Pet Sematary, which is hands down his most frightening story. One of his scariest stories, if not his scariest story. This book has some creepy, messed up topics in it. So I just showed you guys my Pet Sematary, which in my opinion is S-tier king. Top tier king, one of the best books has ever written, to something not so successful, not so well written. We got The Tommyknockers. This book was definitely a slow read. Next up, we got Kinky King with Gerald's Game. This book is pretty damn good in my opinion. Way better than the movie. Am I surprised? No. We got The Dead Zone, which was published in 1979, if I'm not mistaken. This book is underrated in my opinion. I highly think you should give it a try. It probably won't disappoint. It's a great mystery, and one thing I could say about this copy I own is it always reminded me of a old kind of movie, just the cover of it, and just for some reason the book itself reminded me of like an old VHS I'd pick out of my shelf when I was a kid. Right here we got Insomnia. Now this is a book I have read before I've read any of the Dark Tower books, and I haven't actually officially read the whole thing. I've read about 250 pages, which is this much of the book. I've read a good chunk of the book before I gave up on it a few years back, just because I didn't really understand it and it wasn't really touching to me. And then I found out that this is a book with a lot of Dark Tower tie-ins and references, and that is why I was missing out on majority of the story because of that, I feel like. So I will be revisiting this book once I'm done with the Dark Tower. We got Thinner, which this is a book that was written under Stephen King's pseudonym, which is Richard Bachman, as you could see here. And this copy that I have right here is the most beat up book in my collection. Not only is the spine warped, but as you could see, all the pages are literally just, it's all apart, like they're all in different sections. That being said, I have all the pages to this book in order, so whoever's willing to read it, mostly me, whoever's willing to read this copy though, is able to read it. It still does the job. We got 4 Past Midnight, and this is a collection of short stories, specifically 4 short stories. And if you've never read a Stephen King short story before, his short stories are usually over 200 pages long, so they could be novels of their own. I'm currently reading 3 Past Midnight, which is The Library Policeman, and it's the 3rd short story in this collection. And it is absolutely, I'm loving it so far. It's great. Right here we got Stephen King's debut novel with Carrie, which was originally published in 1974. As you can see, his first book ever written is on the shorter side compared to his other books. And this story is really good. This is a story I'd recommend to read if you're new to Stephen King or trying to get into Stephen King. Right here we got The Green Mile. And this is a book that I read a while back when I was still in high school, I believe, on summer break at some point, I remember. And I remember I was expecting this book to be scary because I was reading all of Stephen King's scary books during this time period. And I didn't know much about this book. And I thought it would be scary, which it wasn't meant to be scary. But that being said, it changed my mind about wanting to read horror all the time because it was such a beautiful book. And at the same time, the movie to this book, this is one of the only movies adapted from the book that I could say is really close to the book, if not better than the book. The movie was incredible. If you have not seen it, I'd recommend reading this and watching the movie. If you don't read, watch the damn movie. It's good. Next up, I will be showing you my Dark Tower series, or at least the books I have currently, as I am still reading the series. I started about 4 months ago and I'm progressing pretty damn well. Starting it off, we got the first book in the series, The Gunslinger. And this is the foundation. This is what leaves you asking so many questions that you have to read more. It's the smallest book in the series, coming in at over 200 pages if I'm not wrong. And there we have it, the first book to the Dark Tower series. The book that starts it all. Now you're about to see where I've read up until, as my review will stop shortly. But being said, this is book number 2 of the Dark Tower, The Drawing of the Three. And this book right here is my favorite book so far from the Dark Tower series. This book was just non-stop action compact. It was a page turner. It had me, I've read this book so damn fast. It's just over 450 pages and I've read it in a couple days. This shit was good. Got book 3 of the Dark Tower with The Wastelands. And this was a close tie with The Drawing of the Three. I didn't know which one I liked more, The Drawing of the Three or The Wastelands. They're almost like 2 different stories almost. This is actually a cool copy that I own too, to be honest. It has illustrations inside. So we got the 4th book in the Dark Tower with Wizard and Glass. Now as you can see, I got almost like the same copy, same edition as I did for book 3, the Plume published. So this book is so good so far. I'm currently reading it still, but it wasn't what I expected, to be honest, in a good way. If you have made it this far into the video, I would just like to thank all of you. If you would like to hear me talk in depth, do a book review or book discussion on any of the books that was shown in this video, please leave a comment below. If you have any suggestions on books that I should read or Stephen King books that I should read, please comment that as well. If you would like to see more Stephen King content, please leave a like on this video and subscribe to my channel. I am hoping to do a Stephen King book review real shortly, so please leave a like if you would like to see that. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Mighty, and I'm out.